Right. Hello to you and your strengths. I am Tiffany, and I'm here today with Belinda, and we are going to be talking about what support looks like for women. But first, I want to introduce my top 5 Clifton strengths, which are input, maximizer, positivity, learner, and strategic. And Belinda, I know that you have taken Clifton Strengths assessment in the past. You're not sure of your top 5 at this moment. You'll be exploring that. But can you go ahead and give us some words, some language that describes your strengths or who you are?
Oh gosh. I think words that I would use to describe myself and my kind of role in society, if you will, is I'm energetic. I'm pretty positive. Sometimes I have to remind myself to be positive. I'm hopeful. And I think, especially the way that our world is now, I think it's real important to be hopeful, but to also encourage hope in others. Gosh, what am I? Maybe sometimes scared, a little scared, but that's a good word for me. That's a motivator for me. Yeah, those are words I think come to mind.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah, so as much as I love Clifton Strengths, and I think it is a valuable tool, I don't think it's the only thing that allows people to live happy, successful lives with clarity and confidence, right? So I think it's important, even outside of your Clifton Strengths, that does give you a language a touchstone of language that you can rely on. But clearly, you're an example. You don't have to know them in a moment to be successful or hold value or space. So thank you. All right. So what are you passionate about, and what do you get paid to do?
I am a nurse. So my passion is helping others. Presently, I'm not working in a clinical role, but I've worked as a school nurse. I've worked with combat veterans in substance abuse recovery. I've worked in acute psych, which I like psychology. Presently, I'm using my nursing skills to work with youth and families for substance prevention. My role is the director of Grundy Safe Communities Coalition, and we serve youth, young adults, and families in teaching awareness about dangerous substances, primarily drugs and alcohol. It's a little unique because I'm in very rural Tennessee. The challenges that we kind of face are generational poverty, health disparities, and substance misuse. So those generational concerns are sometimes hard to break, and that's my challenge.
Yeah. So when you are not helping others and you find yourself alone by yourself, what are some things that if no one interrupted you, you could just do for hours?
Be outside. I live in a county, like I said, in rural Tennessee, and we have 3 state parks, 2 in my county and 1 in Sewanee, Tennessee, which is very near me. I like to be outside. I like to do meditations. I just got a new bike. I haven't ridden a bike in years, and I'm ready to get that started. I guess the things I love to do that bring energy to me, though, those are kind of peaceful, meditative things I like to do. I like to read. But I also like a good road trip, just spontaneous. I used to stop at the end of my driveway and flip a coin. Heads, I would go toward Nashville. Tails, I'd go toward Chattanooga.
That makes me nervous. Just
no, spontaneity is good. I'm pretty spontaneous, but I also am fed by the energy of other people. So, first choice would be to kind of relax in a day, but then I got to go out and find somebody to do something with. You gotta flip it where you go, girl.
Yeah, as long as you have an itinerary for both of those plans already in place, I'll be happy to flip that coin.
No, ma'am.
I love that. So you mentioned having this unique visibility on cross-generational struggles, and I'm very curious in your experience how you have witnessed what support means. Like, how would you define support for women, and is that something that has changed across generations?
I think support for women is, gosh, is sort of a conversation or a communication about where we are at that time. I think support is you just have to meet each other where you are. And to do that means sometimes intimate conversations, sometimes just being present. But you know, concerns for women now are so different they were for my mother's generation. And my mother's generation, you know, they didn't talk about a lot of the struggles. They didn't talk about mental health issues. They didn't talk about, you know, mother didn't talk to me about the changes in my body as I went from puberty to, you know, to menopause. But sexual conversations didn't happen, sort of taboo. And women, I think now, in many ways, are empowered to do the things maybe my mother's generation wasn't. My mother didn't work inside the home until my youngest sister graduated high school. She just didn't feel empowered to do that. I was a single mom. I divorced when my son was 7, almost 8. I was a single mom, and you know, I was living where I live now and commuting almost an hour to Baylor School where I met you. And so, you know, my life was so different than my mom's. So I think just a willingness to communicate with each other, a willingness to listen, and a willingness to sit with each other, to be present for each other. Sometimes that's tough. Sometimes that's tough given time and, you know, raising children and working and building new careers. But I think just a presence for each other, a sitting with each other, holding space for each other is crucial.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say, you know, one of the words that you described in the beginning for yourself, you used to describe yourself, you know, being hopeful. And I think that's, for me, that fills my heart with joy to hear that word come from anybody, especially now, right? And so, what is it that you've seen in sitting with women and sharing space with women that gives you hope?
I think what gives me most hope is when women show up for each other. For example, I work with families, and what helps me in my career to see hope is when people show up, when a parent or a mother, when a mother or a grandmother shows up and just says, I need help. When they're able to express that they are challenged, and just being able to express the challenge and ask for help shows me that they're willing to believe that change can happen. I work with a lot of women who are raising grandchildren, and they don't understand the challenges that kids face today. So when they come to me and say, you know, I don't know what to do. When they come to me and say, I'm worried about my teenager, can you help me? Just asking for help means you believe help is available and change. So that thing, but also on just a personal level, my very best friend has just had a breast cancer scare and a mastectomy, and she too would come to me when she needed to borrow some of my strength. And early in her diagnosis and post surgery, she said, I can't cry. And when she cried in my presence, I knew there was trust. I knew there was some hope. I knew that there was a belief that it was maybe going to be okay. Shedding those tears is ridding yourself of fear, I believe, sometimes. So, you know, purging that fear and purging what you don't understand is also sometimes hopeful. And I bet that sounds like an oxymoron,
Yeah, not at all, not at all. But I
uh,
think that that relationship between hope and trust is inseparable.
yes.
I definitely think that hope and trust they're inseparable.
They
And so
they
there's
do that.
not one without the other, right? And I think right now, hearing in the stories you're sharing about families and children and your best friend, the people closest to you, having hope because they trust that moment with you, or they trust your vision of the future for them. And I think, also the self-trust, right? So at some level, like when was and I guess it can be up and down and it can change frequently, but can you remember and do you care to share a time when you first started having self-trust, that trust
Mhm,
to show up for people, and that when you did, it was meaningful, impactful? When
mhm,
did that confidence, that self-trust start to show up for you?
mhm. Um, I mentioned that early on, I was a young mother, um,
Mhm.
and I became a mother when I was 20, almost 22, and that was young. And my frontal lobe was barely developed. And here I have a human to take care of. But I think, you know, you have children. So I think when you're handed a newborn, for example, I guess this is my connection with mothers. When you're handed a newborn, and you succeed in feeding and diapering and understanding, and there's that just innate thing that happens when you become a mother.
Mhm.
That's something that builds fear and trust, self-trust.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I'm 63, soon to be 64, so I've had a lot of those ups and downs, and peaks and valleys. But um once I saw that I could parent by myself, I could be a successful, that my standards for my child could be the same without his dad present.
Mhm.
That was empowering. Those
Mhm.
were also a lot of heartbreaks, because I was the one. I had my parents
Mhm.
for it, but um, I also stepped out of nursing, which was my career, and to find something meaningful outside of a hospital or a clinic
Mhm.
has been empowering. And it really helps me trust myself. And I believe successes in life help us feel trustful in ourselves.
That self-efficacy. Like, I've
Yeah.
seen this before. I've done this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to
Mhm.
see um, the students who I teach go to Capitol Hill in Nashville and talk very, very confidently about the
Mhm.
need for changes in laws and rules. To see my son, who is now a trauma nurse, a hospital trauma nurse,
Mhm.
to see him grown and making decisions that hopefully I had something to do with, growing that in him and parenting
Mhm.
him to that. And those heartbreaks, you learn that what you're doing might not be the right thing. So it's not
Mhm.
always the successes, sometimes it's the failures, and learning to move
Yeah.
beyond and do something different, I think.
Yeah, and I think in, strength-based wellness, and what I focus on with Hello Strengths is strength-based wellness, that having this language to find out what's right with you, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes I hear, and there's a pattern of what I hear whenever I'm introducing strengths to people, strength-based wellness is where we're just like overlooking our weaknesses, or we're not, it's like, no, not everything is rainbows and butterflies and happiness whenever you're doing
True.
strength-based work. You really have, because sometimes our strengths show up for us and serve us well, and sometimes they get in our way, and sometimes they can be damaging to the values that we have, the life we're trying to live.
That is so true.
And so I think it's just an honest path towards accepting what are my natural innate strengths, talents that I have, where am I investing my time, and does that align with what I want for my life? And when you mentioned that your friend, so trusting and loving, asked, leaned on you for your strengths and what you had. I think that's a valuable part of the puzzle that people often miss or don't assume is part of this strength-based wellness work is, with Clifton Strengths, there's 34 strengths. You get your top 5. those are the innate, they come naturally to you. Your top 10, you're not exerting a lot, too much energy outside, within your top 10 to practice those skills and talents. Outside of your top 10 requires very intentional energy and time to build those skills. The one I always like to use is empathy, because come to find out, empathy is a skill set and empathy is a talent, a strength that is necessary in this world. And it's nowhere near my top 10. So it is, but come to find out, the people that I love and care about usually have empathy within their top 10, if not their top 5. And empathy is something that I feel would be a better place if more people understood and developed that talent. So, so I'm curious, whereas I've devoted a lot of time, studies, I've been very intentional about learning how to build empathy for myself, because it is outside of my top 10. We won't name which number it falls on the list, but it's pretty low. So I've invested a lot of time, and I intentionally look for people who have empathy to build relationships with and learn from. And I'm curious to know, what are some of the strengths maybe that would not be in your top 5, top 10? What are some of those strengths that you lean on other people for, you seek out in others? Because sometimes you feel like maybe you have a deficit in that.
I think that I'm very energetic, and I'm by nature a caregiver. Therefore, I became a nurse. And I think I'm not very patient. Natural caregiving means jump in, take care of this, fix it. And sometimes you should wait and sit on it and hold space for it before you can even support. But I often am the fixer I'm the solver. And I would do well sometimes to back it down a little bit, and instead of being the fixer, help people find their own fix. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So more of an influence. So you're very inclined to execute things, get things done, but maybe move more into a leadership domain that's more about influencing, helping others have a voice for themselves, speak for themselves. Yeah. And so
I do work on that. I'm challenged to do that. And that self-awareness helps me in backing it down sometimes.
Yeah. Are there people, you don't have to name names of people, but are there people, places, books, resources, let's say that you don't have access, or even if you don't have access to a person, but just any resources that you use when you are feeling like you need direction?
Gosh, the resource that I use all the time is I am very intuitive, and so I practice mindfulness. And just like I said, I have all this energy, so for me to just stop, and for me to be present for myself, and for me to not have this pea brain just thinking, rapid fire, that serves me very well. Nature serves me very, very well. I'm a strong extrovert way out on the E line, and sometimes I seek out support and conversation and presence with others, and I'm learning to sit still with myself. Not only has that served me in my personal life, it has served me so beautifully in my career. I worked with veterans who had super challenges resulting from, the horrors of war oftentimes. And we practiced mindfulness, and they would say to me, we go into this room and you dim the lights and you turn into somebody we don't know outside the door. I was constantly high energy and playing volleyball with them, and then my example of slowing myself, and my example of my breathing, and my example of my own mindful practice and leading that with my patients, served me well there. So, and that's actually where I really learned mindfulness.
Well, thank you for sharing that. All right, I have one final question for you as we wrap up here. What do you believe to be true about women? What do you believe to be true about women?
I believe that women are, for the most part, stronger than they believe they are. I believe that we women have a strength that we tap into when we need it. And I believe that we women need to be reminded of that. And that strength leads us on the path which we should walk. It leads us to find the answers to our questions. That inner strength grows children. That inner strength helps us to care for aging parents and aging loved ones. That inner strength that we have leads us to new career paths and moving to new places and exploring. That inner strength in women, I believe, is what moves us forward along our path. Sometimes women are perceived to be scared and docile and weak. We are fierce. And if we will just remind each other, to learn how to navigate our paths and to learn how to hold the hand of other women and bring them along when we need to, or let go of that hand and let them find their own way. We are strong beasts. We got strength.
I agree. Hence the reason that we're here and I'm starting this business. I love it. Well, I want to say thank you so much for supporting me in my new career path and supporting all the families and just really anybody that you have been a touchstone of strength for. I want to thank you on behalf of everyone, of all women, because I really think that you are setting a standard that we deserve, that all women deserve.
Okay,
so I appreciate that.
You're making me
that.
Oh, it's so good to be reacquainted with you, but especially in this way. I just think it's really fair that we say, I met you when you were a high school student. And, I was a floundering recent divorcee raising a kid who was your age there. And, same age. And now here we are. You're the one with children. And I have an adult child. It's just so beautiful. And this is just an example of that strength and reaching out when we seek like-minded visions. And I love this so much.